Good.
Yeah, we're recording.
Right, we're live, Vincent.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Kara-Leah from the Yoga Lunchbox, and I have the privilege of talking to Vincent Bolletta again. It's our third interview over the last few years, which is such a treat because we get to drop in and I get to ask him what he's been up to and what's evolving. Because one thing I noticed about you, Vincent, is you are always evolving, both your practice and how you teach and what you offer. So how has 2019 been for you?
It's been really, really good. It's been actually quite busy. Started off in Norway, and we slowly progressed through Australasia and Asia, and through trainings, intensives. Just been full on. It's been really, really good.
Yeah, because you do a lot of international travel and trainings as a teacher, right? Like I know you're one of New Zealand's foremost teachers. You've been teaching for like 26 years. You had a long history, even at Les Mills doing trainings, etc. there.
Yeah.
But you do a lot overseas. So aside from Norway and China, where else are you teaching?
Well, because I've moved from Auckland, I'm in Dunedin now, and so and looks like we're creating a base in Christchurch. And so in terms coming 2021, we will be actually organising trainings from Christchurch, and it's with Move Well. And it's a therapeutic, yoga-based massage, just a whole wonderful array of skills that improves wellness and health. Yeah, and so we're gonna be launching our therapeutic trainings from that place, 2021. So and next year, 2020, we're going to be doing some teasers in terms of flow workshops that have therapeutic components to it, so people get an idea that flow and actually therapy are combined, and you can actually put them together as a really nice package. So lots of things happening in New Zealand too, but it's a slower market, so we're just taking our time and just making sure everything's in the right place.
Because Hansa Flow, did I say that right? Hansa?
Yeah,
so Hansa Flow is I don't want to say it's a brand because, but it kind of is. Like it's your amalgamation and understanding of how to bring functional yoga asana into the regular practitioner's life. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So, I mean, when you look at movement, it's multi-layered. And so it's trying to create a relationship to our bodies in a particular way that's a little bit more functional. We'll use the word functional, but there's more alignment towards the way we generally move every day. So there's spirals, there's multi-compounded relationships to movement. So what I mean by that, it's not just one joint movement. There's a lot of joints that are moving at the same time. And so it's all about this idea of getting coordination, a little bit more synergy between upper and lower parts of the body. And it's creating an experience that's all encompassing, really, at the end of the day. And so we try and establish a relationship to the yoga practice that sometimes can be a bit stylized, but clinical, and a little bit slightly overly exaggerated in terms of its relationships to space, or how we should organize ourselves in space. And we try and kind of just break it up a little bit, just trying to create a little bit more softness around the practice, if that's the right word.
Yeah, I mean, I watched some of the videos you've got on YouTube of yourself doing the practice and other people doing the practice, and that was one of the things that really stood out for me was, the softness and the fluidity of it, like a sense of, because you're moving quite slowly as well. Like if you look at, say, vinyasa practice and how quick that can be and sometimes so, harsh or hard, and then looking at the way that you're moving, it does feel very different.
Yeah, tempo is a really important one, I think, and I think everybody's rhythms are different, but there is a particular tempo that I think can really awaken people's sensitivities and observational powers as well. And sometimes we can camouflage a lot of our habituations, I suppose, through momentum. And so when we go slow, actually things tend to be more heightened in the way that we sense things, and both positive and not so positive. And so there is when I teach the flow practices, there is a rhythm that I like people to align with, So that it gives them the best possible vantage point of seeing themselves moving. And then at the same time, it gives them an opportunity to, in the moment, consider where they are and also where they're going. So it's on the moment adaptation rather than this hindsight or reflection later on. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done it like that, or blah blah blah. And so it's about how we adapt within those moments as well. So it's a skill. It's not easy. I think anything that's that is supportive of you takes time. So I do encourage the students to continue to practice in a particular way, that they step into it in a way that it's an exploration, it's an investigation, but there is certain criteria that also can create an environment that these particular approaches can heighten one's sensitivities.
I notice you use that word quite a lot, and as you go through some of your material on your website. So what do you mean exactly by sensitivities? What are people becoming sensitive to, for example?
There's multi-layered experiences. So physical, energetic, and also what you're emotionally or mentally feeling at the same time. And so our flow movement is not just specific to our body, physical body. It obviously penetrates the deeper layers of what makes up the human experience. And so for me, sensitivities goes right across the board of what it is to be a human, really, at the end of the day. Or what it is to be living in a particular body, and so the sensitivities, I think, the gross sensitivities are easy to establish our relationships to. What is our body feeling like, and so forth. But those are just the entry to a bigger conversation, and that conversation is about the way we make choices, the way that we interpret things. Also, the way that we sense our environment, sometimes those can be slaves to our habituations.
So when someone's then working with the flow, what it sounds like to me is you're saying you're encouraging them to really be aware or observe what's going on moment to moment, not just on the physical, but emotional, mental, energetic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's not easy too, because the one thing that I do advocate, in the trainings, in the flow practice, is this level of stability. And stability in terms of both also this consistency of movement that has a sense of stability, consistency of attention as well to the movement that you're working with. So stability is the key for most things in terms of therapy, but also to develop a much more grounded approach to the way that we tend to see things, feel things, and then also the way that we interpret things as well. Stability first before ease, eh?
Yeah, sounds like Muladhar before Svadhisthana.
Exactly. So I mean, for better or worse, when you think about when things are easy, usually things are pretty stable in your life.
So then for someone coming, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
So I'm just wondering, so someone coming into this practice, is it likely then they'll start to get, say, more in touch with their emotional landscape, or more in touch on what's going on for them, maybe in the, that kind of borderline between the conscious and unconscious, the things that they're not quite aware of but beginning to surface?
Yes, I would say that's a key component. You will start to become more aware of these deeper layers, I suppose, of how you experience yourself. And I think that's important. I think we have to question also what we're feeling on those levels, and also what we're thinking. Also, that establishes those emotional realms too. And so it's a practice that requires time. And so it's not a practice that I would say that you are manufacturing externally an experience for a student. It's a practice that shifts the power dynamics to the student taking ownership of what they're doing through a particular structure that supports them, and it's individuated towards their needs. But ultimately, it's the student creating an internal environment that they become more aware of themselves. I mean, that's really cliche, but they can basically become more aware of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So what's the benefits of this kind of practice? Like, what do you see in students who've been doing it for a while, or people that you're training to teach who are now teaching it? How does their experience shift or change?
Well, that's a really good question, because it's on all layers, really. The way that they're moving is much more efficient. There's greater grace and functionality to it. And, and when I talk about functionality, I'll also talk about longevity. When things are functional, things tend to last longer.
Yes.
So and so there is this grace and ease to their movement. There is a better appreciation of also what supports them. In terms of their observation of themselves, as that becomes much more heightened, they also become much more observant of other people. And that's great, especially as a teacher, and because your observational levels or skills are really important to support your students. That's in ways that encourage them to be a little bit more attentive to certain things that maybe in the future create certain complications for them. So there's greater sensitivity in terms of their observation, and then I think at the same time they're able to self-regulate better.
What do you mean by self-regulate?
Like make
better choices, or
make better choices, and emotionally as well. And as well, there is a greater intelligence, physical intelligence that I see, and that comes out too. And the way that they move, and at the end of the day, the practice becomes quite pleasing. It just becomes really enjoyable. So it's like sometimes it's one of those practices you just don't want to stop, because there's this underlying current of feeling free.
That's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Freedom.
Yeah. And so that's like a poison chalice in some respects, or chasing the dragon. We're constantly seeking that, and we turn ourselves inside out and upside down to achieve that. And sometimes just keeping it simple creates it.
So people engaging with Hatha yoga, they can come along to a class with a trained teacher, right? Or if they want to start learning the flows, because you've got lots of different levels set up now, not just the flows themselves, but also therapeutics and then advanced. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. So as I said, the flow is very closely linked to the therapy, and it has to be, because I want teachers to have a good understanding about the human condition. And so, but at the same time, I want the flow practices to be accessible. And so I'm offering these flow trainings in a way that makes people understand that the movement practices can be circular. Spirals are actually something that's serving to the body, and actually may support some of the dysfunctional components within the body. And so a lot of the practices are spiral orientated. As I said, there's a softness associated, so that you don't push at certain points that you feel resistance. You start to learn how to navigate resistance by becoming a little bit more intelligent around how you use your body. And then those layers are closely associated to the trainings. And the trainings, we have three trainings. There's the fundamentals, there's the professional therapy training, and then there's the advanced training. And basically to become a therapist, you have to go through basically 800 hours to 900 hours worth of training, because there's also clinical work that you need to do, case studies that you need to do, and so forth. So a therapist is slightly different, but to become a Hansa Flow teacher, it's a little bit more simplified. You just have to do, in terms of the advanced training, or to the advanced level on Hansa Flow, to have a 200-hour teacher training in therapy will sort of kind of take you there.
So are there set sequences that run over a certain time period, or is it more of principles of ways of engaging?
No, there's set sequences there. So they are based upon 4 stages of gravitational influence. So floor, hands and knees, standing, and then sort of kind of sitting arrangements. Not in that order, but we have, and there's a set choreography. And so there's basically 4 sequences within one practice, and each has its own choreography to it. And it's like a mandala, basically. You know, it's the choreography is layered from simple to a little bit more complex. And these sequences are upgraded every 3 months. Yeah. And yeah, so the reason for having these 4 sequences is also to establish a relationship to the floor, and also the stages that takes us to standing, and ways that we navigate our movement in a greater efficient way. And there's a sort of logic to it as well. And the logic is really aligned with the developmental patterns, the way that we learn to actually walk, stand, use our bodies, you know, in very early childhood. So it has those associations. And because, you know, developmental patterning is very also important for cognition, the way that we move also is the way that we think. So we try and link certain, if you like, developmental gaps, or we try and sort of ascertain where are the developmental gaps in our movement, and how that can possibly as well support levels of attention, awareness, and generally kinesthetic sense. So there's a lot of information that's there within the flow, but again, it's just fun to move in really nice ways.
Yeah.
You know?
I can feel the depth of it, like all the different things that, you know, must go into that, and the level of, you know, your experience over decades of moving and moving with people and teaching, you know, who knows how many thousands of students you've taught over the years.
Yeah, it feels like a long time now, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, yeah. So, but no, it is about, I think we all evolve, you know, there's always, it's an evolution of hopefully greater understanding and better choice making and greater intelligence around behavior. And so when you watch people, you learn a lot about yourself. And so watching students, they've been my biggest teachers actually, and my interactions with them. And sometimes, you know, our interactions, the ones that are not so necessarily positive, are our biggest teachers or our biggest learning. So there's a lot to take in every moment, you know, and so that's why I advocate trying to create that relationship moment to moment from a sensorial perspective, because that really connects you to your psychology really beautifully. You know, it's just the link is just wonderful, and once you realize there is a link, and once you realize that, you know, a simple movement of an arm is not just the arm and the general mechanics of it, but there's more to it. It becomes really an enriching experience. It becomes quite a wonderful moment.
So I just want to unpack that a little bit, because what you said there, what I heard you say was that by feeling or attending to the moment by moment sensory experience, you start to understand your, would you say psyche or?
Yeah, psychology. Yeah, because
your psychology.
The two are not separated. The way you move is the way you think.
Right.
Your external structure is the window to the mind, really, to the world. You know, you see the world through your body.
Yeah.
So how you use your body then is an expression of what you see.
So when you're working with people from a therapeutic perspective, is it just physical therapy, or are you addressing specific ailments? Are you working on the mental and emotional level?
I think we work on all levels, but we work on the level which is most appropriate, and we work on the level that's most accessible, and generally the physical body is the first, you know. And then after that, it's a conversation that leads into philosophical paradigms. It leads to sort of I suppose, what would you call it? It leads to moments of realization for some people that takes them then into deeper realms of who they are, and that's both emotional and psychological.
Right. So you can see why that would be like an 800 or 900 hour training, because I mean, who knows who's going to show up for that experience, and obviously training a teacher to be able to attend to such a variety of people.
Well, the first and most important thing is to create that container, you know, that has an element of safety, and so the exploration is graduated, you know, and so that we are supported in the process, and it's all about dosage as well. You know, if you give too much, say too much, or do too much, it can sometimes be too much. And so it's just, and you know, it's just a matter of finding the right words, finding the right, you know, conversations, the right movement patterns that supports people, and that just takes time. And there's no hurry for it. Yeah.
So when people come and do a training with you, or even a workshop, they're really joining a community, aren't they? Because if you're upgrading the sequences like every 3 months, how are people like connecting in to get the upgrade per se?
Yeah, well, so we created an online platform, and so we've created one in China, and that's just been established this week. And we're not too far away from creating an international platform. So all the programs that we'll be doing, the upgraded programs, will be online, but you'll have to go through first a certification of flow practice to be able to access these new sequences. And these new sequences, I like it because it just gives me a chance to be creative and playful and do new stuff, but they're still held within certain principles. You know, there's a container there that supports, again, functionality. So I want these sequences to be accessible to everybody. And so the idea is that it's not about advancing your physical practice, but it's actually maintaining what you've got.
Do you think that your age is starting to inform that? Because I'm guessing you're probably in your 40s now.
Stop it.
And so your practice, well, this is, you know, we're all getting older. And has that changed how you personally practice?
52.
How old are you? 50? Wait, we
yeah.
just froze. You'll come back.
Yeah, 52. Can you hear me? So, we have frozen. Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello. We might come back. Hey, you back?
Yay, we're back.
We're back. Fantastic. And so, yes, I suppose, yes, age is a consideration here. But also to, you know, when we think about who actually comes to these yoga classes, you know, just general average sort of people who want to feel good, have an experience that supports them, have, you know, humble goals around the practice. Not everybody can achieve the advanced, you know, processes that that are beautifully advertised in the community. And it's just trying to keep it real, really.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, and you know, I'd keep it real and, you know, demystify, sometimes, you know, a little bit irreverent around the practice as well. And keep, you know, and when you're slightly irreverent, you can be playful.
Yeah, and being playful, like it's always said that being able to be playful is like a mark of kind of where you are in terms of waking up a little bit. Like being serious is one of the pitfalls on the path per se, being too earnest, too serious.
Yeah, look, it's always a fine balance, you know. Sometimes you can grip too tightly, and that kind of restricts your ability and your experiences. And then sometimes you can be too open, and that also can become a little bit too nebulous. You know, so it's just finding the right balance. But that balance changes from moment to moment, from day to day, from year to year. You know, from phase to phase in your life. You know, so it's understanding that balance is not a permanent thing. It's continuously moving. The goalposts are always moving, and you have to move with it. And otherwise, it's easy to fall into rigidity, and it's easy to fall into just not doing anything. You know, you're playing, but not really gaining anything from that play. You're just reinforcing already what you'd normally do. You know?
That reminds me of the sensitivity you're talking around, that sensitivity to be able to determine where one is and what one needs, rather than have a fixed idea of this is the thing. Yeah,
that's right. That's absolutely right. I mean, you know that any transformative process comes with a little bit of effort, comes with a little bit of discomfort. you know. And if you're avoiding that in your play, then
yeah,
you know. So I mean, but you know, I say that it all depends really. At the end of the day, it depends on the individual, and it depends on the time and whether the challenge is appropriate or not in that moment. And so you have to be adaptable as a teacher as well as a therapist, and you have to assess the moment by moment.
Yeah. So I'm curious, given how long you've been in the yoga world and what you've seen and the fact that you do travel widely around the globe, what are you seeing at the moment? Like, what's your take on what's going on or what's unfolding or where the edges are, or what have you noticed?
Yeah, good question. It's a play between tradition and exploration of that tradition. And so there's not that there's factions, but there's two different paradigms that seem to be becoming more and more entrenched in a particular approach. And so because, you know, and so tradition is not too bad, and it holds people's attention, because you don't want to, you know, excuse the cliche, but throwing that, you know, the baby out with the bathwater, because there is some valid things out there that hold true and still, you know, hold true thousands of years ago and still hold true now. And so you don't want to disregard that. But I think the way we present yoga is changing, which is a good thing. I think the way that we teach our students is changing, which is great. It's losing some of those rigidities in terms of how we should interact or behave with yoga. I think that these are positive things that are happening.
And in terms of adjustments, like there's a lot of talk right now around adjustments and giving them or not giving them, or whether to have consent cards. And what's your perspective on that? Like, are adjustments a part of the Hansa sequencing and practice, or?
Well, first and foremost, if you're going to give an adjustment, you do need consent. You got to ask. I mean, it's quite a simple process. It doesn't, no big deal, you know. And then if you are going to adjust somebody, supposedly, why do you want to adjust them? You know, I mean, is there a purpose? Can't they get there by themselves? You know, are you teaching them in a particular way that they eventually can figure it out for themselves, that they adjust or regulate themselves from the inside out rather than from the outside, or try and think that the outside adjustment's going to somehow alter the neurology, and that they know what to do after that, you know? And so, but in the Hansa Yoga, to answer your question, we do have body work, but that's specific to particular functionalities or dysfunctionalities. And the body work is generally very soft, because it's not about the manipulation of the musculature. It's more about the neurological system and repatterning. And I think touch is still an appropriate process for learning, but touch is being used for other means which are not positive. They've been quite destructive. And also they have created certain power imbalances as well. So I totally agree with all that stuff. But at the same time, touch is nurturing, it's healing. It can be very positive. It can be very positive for the individual. Babies need to be touched. That's the way that they grow. That's how they develop cognition, how they develop emotional regularity. So we don't want to negate touch. We just need to find a better way of using it and presenting it, and again, understanding when it's appropriate and when it's not.
And so is that something that you train people in on your is it a conversation that happens in your trainings?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think these are important conversations to have generally. But with, you know, because you're doing therapy, and as you said, it's multi-layered, and there's a number of things that kind of leads you into. You have to know yourself first and foremost, and you have to know why you want to be touching somebody. What are the reasons, and are you transparent with those reasons? Can you communicate those reasons? Because the communication sets the boundaries, it sets the parameters, and if you step outside of those parameters, then the communication hasn't been honest.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing on that.
Oh,
it is a bit of a hot topic right now. It's like, yeah.
I think the conversations are really important, and I think though touch is also still very important. Two factions in society that don't get touched very much, well, that need to be touched actually, and young children, babies, and older people. That somehow, as we get older, we lose our relevance, and so touch is really important for older generation. It makes somebody feel that they belong.
So true.
But it's everything is in balance. Touch can heal and touch can destroy.
Back to sensitivity and observation and relationship, right?
Yoga is all relational. Therapy is relational. The practice, the physical practice is relational. It's all about relationships. So it's about communication. At the end of the day.
So if people want to communicate with you and come and relate to you in a class situation, a workshop, a training. So next year in New Zealand, you're doing workshops, no trainings next year?
Yep. So jump on the website, so hunter.yoga, and you'll see there is a Bali retreat that we're running next year in March, which is a flow intensive, and it's a certification as well. There's some therapy is associated to this retreat, and we're doing it at Yoga Barn in Ubud, which will be fun. So it's 6 days, and that's early mid-March. And then in Christchurch in New Zealand, we're going to be 3 offerings basically. I think I don't have the dates in front of me, so I better not say because I'll probably say it wrong. But do jump online. They're going to be put up.
We'll put it underneath.
Next week or so. So that's all going to be presented, and then that's a teaser for 2021 for the therapy training that we'll be offering. That will be modular as well, and that's one thing I think I'm looking at in the future is changing the way that we teach people. And I think a modular system is much better than the 100 hours or these high intensive states of learning. I think giving people a chance to digest what they're doing is really, really important. And also at the same time, giving them space for them to practice, because it's in the practice that we learn, not in sitting down reading a book. So these are the opportunities I want to offer.
Awesome. And so the one that's in Bali, is that just for teachers wanting to certify and teach Hansa, or is it for people that are really interested in just deepening into the practice itself?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. So, I'm keen to share the flow practices because I think they're really cool. That's just a personal bias though, but I'm keen to share them. But at the same time, I want to create an environment for the community that the practices are safe, they're logical, they support people, and and it gives them a new experience of how to use their body in the yoga setting.
Awesome. Well, such a delight as always to talk to you, see what you're up to, see the evolution.
I know, and I'm a bit jealous because you guys have got a wonderful summer and it's actually snowing out here.
Yeah, because you're in China right now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. But it's been great talking to you, and I'll be back in New Zealand very shortly. So for Christmas, so I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Listen.